Hey, welcome to this Money Monday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. We're coming today live to kick off another week where we do every single day, noon to 2 Eastern, from the Hooters Heat Studios. And we have the CEO of Iconic Brands, the distributor of the Hooters brand, coming on a little later. Richard DeSico will be joining us. But lots to discuss this week. It looks like the impeachment has ended. We'll have an acquittal by Wednesday. Last week, we ended the week on a really bad note for the markets, with the Dow down 600 on the fear, fright, and hysteria from the coronavirus. It looks like it is spreading some more, but not spreading so far into the markets that today the Dow is in recovery mode, up about 180 points as we speak, and it looks like the uncertainty on the global stage has washed itself out. We're making a slight recovery, well under 29,000. That's the next benchmark for you guys watching at home on your portfolio. We want to get above 29 to get back to some smooth seas and smooth sailing. Bitcoin trading in a range right now between 9,000 and 9,500 back and forth. I think if the contagion gets worse in China, you'll see more people trying to get into Bitcoin and get it out of China. So I think there could be some good news there on the Bitcoin front. And good news for you, as always, when I'm joined by Frank Morano, my co-host, managing editor of Liquid Lunch. Hey, Frankie.
Hello there,
Monday.
John. Happy Monday to you. And it's a shame there's nothing interesting happening in the world, right? Not too much news going on. So we had the Super Bowl yesterday, the Writers Guild Awards on Saturday. Tonight we have the Iowa caucuses, or the Hawkeye Caucus. Tomorrow's the State of the Union. And Wednesday is going to be the final vote, we hope, on impeachment, and this circus can finally be put to an end.
You know what would be nice, Frankie?
And, of course, Groundhog Day. Staten Island Chuck predicting an early spring.
Chuck and Punxsutawney Phil are actually in agreement this year, and they're saying that we're going to get an early spring. I don't put much weight into that stuff, but I'm still an advocate for groundhogs actually making a prediction rather than the robo 3D artificial groundhog that PETA is suggesting.
Yeah, I'm of two minds about it, because I don't see why a groundhog should be tortured by people like Bill de Blasio and others for our amusement. I would think a mechanical or AI groundhog, a robotic groundhog, could do it just as well. But does that make it so that people wouldn't want to breed groundhogs because there'd be less of a market for them?
And
I don't know.
The actual show groundhogs that come out for these things, I would say they're pampered pretty well as compared to those living in the wild.
That was one of my favorite commercials in the Super Bowl yesterday. The Groundhog Day commercial with Bill Murray. Did you see it?
I saw it.
Yeah.
The one that I was jumping up and down to the extent I was excited about the game, but I couldn't believe it when, I don't know if you remember, but when you were talking about how, Mr. Peanut was being killed off.
Right.
And then I said, what's next? The Kool-Aid Man?
Well, we actually have that video. I know I'm going to upset the apple cart here and ask people to go a little out of order, which I'm sorry to do. But if we can actually play the Mr. Peanut commercial that John is referencing, I think a visual aid would help the viewers understand the depth of what John is talking about.
Tremendous. No spoiler alert here. Mr. Peanut may have passed on to greener peanut farms.
Right. So what they did was, and we've showed this commercial, they had a commercial of Mr. Peanut dying in an explosion off a cliff, saving Wesley Snipes and some other actor I never heard of. And then they said they weren't going to play either that commercial or the funeral one out of respect for Kobe Bryant. But they did end up playing the funeral one. This is what happened. This is what we saw.
Bang.
Mr. Peanut, he spent his life bringing people together. I know he'd be happy that we are all together now. Yeah. What is happening?
What is that? Is that a baby nut?
Just kidding. I'm back. Where's my monocle?
I don't know. I thought it was a little gimmicky. Their whole publicity attempt to capitalize on look, I'm all for publicity stunts, But they turned Mr. Peanut, who's a distinguished Englishman, they turned this poor guy into Baby Yoda. And to me, it's an attempt to try and capitalize on the popularity of both Mr. Peanut and Baby Yoda. Mr. Peanut is Bartholomew Richard Fitzgerald Smythe. He's not a Baby Yoda-looking guy.
What is the Baby Peanut have a name or?
I think they said he's Baby Nut or something.
Baby Nut. Baby Nut. All right, I
Whatever.
like it, but and I don't know if you remember, but when we were going through it, I said, "What's next?" The Kool-Aid Man.
And there he was.
Sure enough, it was the teardrop from the Kool-Aid Man that sprouted Baby Nut.
Yeah. Do you think they got the idea from this
I think
show?
they did.
All right.
I actually think they did. You know I'm a conspiracy
It was
theorist.
another unfortunate incident at the Super Bowl, and I'm not talking about the stellar play on the field that I'll be speaking frankly about. All right, well, let me talk to you a little bit about what we saw during Demi Lovato's performance when she was performing the national anthem yesterday. The whole world, literally, was standing up at attention and taking a look at this incredibly talented singer and her tribute to our country. Well, almost literally the whole world. Have a look at how Jay-Z and Beyonce Knowles were behaving during the national anthem. So, as you could see there, Jay-Z and Beyonce Knowles remained sitting down with one of them wearing a cap during the national anthem. Now, I don't know if this was a protest, a Colin Kaepernick-style protest, or if this was just them being distracted and lazy and not wanting to get up and pay the proper respect to the flag. Either one, I think, is absolutely outrageous. For these people are role models to a lot of people out there, especially young folks, and especially when you consider that Jay-Z is in this new partnership with the National Football League, in which he's going to use that partnership to teach people about social justice. That's what you're teaching? You're sitting down during the national anthem? Stand up. You don't want to put your hand over your heart? Come on. At least look like you have a modicum of respect for the country and the flag that has probably liberated more people from oppression than any other country in the history of the world. This is embarrassing. Once Jay-Z stops accepting American money for his musical talents, then maybe I'll be okay with him not wanting to stand for the national anthem. But until then, John, he should at least take his hat off.
I was sitting there, and by the way, I found that video yesterday.
And that
right
video
away.
is courtesy of TMZ, by the way.
Well, I was going to say, but Tito Ortiz shared it on his Instagram, and there was hundreds of thousands of people commenting about how horrible this is for Jay-Z to do stuff like this. And you know what? Forget about being in a partnership with the NFL. We already know the NFL comes down on the side of kneelers. We already know that, okay? But he's supposed to be like this role model. He's like, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. He's like something to look up to. Kids got out of the hood, stopped slinging crack, and now he's a multi-bajillionaire. The kids that are looking up to you, number one, I think it's kind of commonplace that when you're raising kids, which Jay-Z and Beyonce are, you usually teach your kid when you come in the inside, take your hat off. But no matter what, when the national anthem goes on, you take off your cap. So maybe your leg hurt, or you couldn't stand, or some other half-baked reason. Take your hat off and respect our country. When they put, you don't even have to hold it over your heart. Just take it off. And I think it was atrocious on both of their behalf to sit there with the whole nation and country standing for the anthem, and these two are sitting down, I guess, in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick.
Again, I don't know whether it was a form of protest or just laziness and callous uncaring for what was going on. But come on, especially when you're a public figure, but even if you're not, just
stand up.
Act like you care.
Take your cap off, make believe you're doing it. Just be an example in a place where it shouldn't be that hard to be an example.
Right.
You know, Frankie, before we go, we got a big show coming up today. Mo Vella Washington insider, former advisor to Joe Biden, one of our favorite mix-it-up participants here on the Democrat side. He's out in Iowa. He's going to be joining us right after this from Iowa, boots on the ground, letting us know what's happening with all the caucus goers. And Chris
part of our Road to the White House series, brought to you by HotelPlanner.com, the only website you should ever consider when you use group booking accommodations.
That's true. And Chris Markowski, the watchdog on Wall Street, is going to be here. We're going to talk about last week's big moves to the downside, what that means to you, your portfolio. Fernando Uribe is going to be here. He's the host of Politically Direct on Insider NJ and also at the Bergen Community College. And Dr. Jeanette Nishwat is going to be here talking to us about the effects of this coronavirus, what the contagion, what the real deal is. Richard DeSico joins us in an hour or two, CEO of Iconic Brands, the distributor of Hooters Heat, which you see my desk is emblazoned with all these new bottles down here from our good friends at Iconic. They brought us a little fortification. And Dante Nero, actor, comedian, host of the Man School podcast, is going to be here. Frank and I will break down the whole impeachment mess and all that and more. But Frankie, the last thing I want to talk about before we get into this Money Monday show is the money problem we're having for our seniors. 10,000 people a day are turning 65, okay? And a recent study says that the retirement gap is so large that an average American lives 23 years after retirement, and on the date of their retirement, they have approximately 19 months of income saved. So think about that, folks. You got your IRA, okay? And you take a look, oh, I'm doing good. I'm putting so much in, and my employer's matching me up to a little bitty here. 1 in 4 people turn 65 will live past 90, okay? 1 in 10 people will live past 95 with all the advances in medical science and all this other stuff. And when you retire, on the day of your retirement, you have approximately just under 2 years worth of money in the till to feed yourself, clothe yourself, put a roof over your head. So it's a pretty scary proposition. I'm going to be talking more about this. If you subscribe to my Monday morning newsletter, the Monday Morning Quarterback, you can email me and I'll give you even some more information, some simple instructional videos that you can look at to maybe think about self-directing some of your IRA, possibly diversifying it and making sure that you're making the right choices now so you don't have to work when you're 87. So keep your eye on that. Look at it. This might be a good time with the market down last week, 600. Today up $150. There's still some bargains out there. It might be a good time to kind of reassess what you're doing with your portfolio. We'll talk about that and plenty more with Chris Markowski in just a little bit. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to go via Mo Vela to the streets of Iowa, where Mo is covering the caucuses for us, and he's there with HotelPlanner.com right after this.